What I've done here is I've opened up blue facing right in Photoshop because I want to have a look at him and try and explain about resizing the image. So here's the image, and if I zoom right in on it, then obviously disappears into a whole morass of blue. If I move up to one of the edges, then I begin to see that how this shape is made, it's made by lots and lots of little tiny squares of colour. These little tiny squares of colour are called pixels, and one of the ways you can measure the size of an image is by saying how many pixels it is from one side to the other and how many pixels it is from the top to the bottom. Same ways you could measure it in inches or measure it in centimetres. And video game sprites are usually measured in pixels rather than inches or centimetres. And I can see the size of this image by going into image size, and it tells me that it's 345 pixels wide and 394 pixels tall. I want to go back to Game Maker. That's too tall. That's too tall for what I need. I would actually like my shape to fit inside 4 of these little squares. Okay, I'd like it to fit inside 4 of those little squares, and each of those little squares is 16 pixels wide. So 2 of them would be 32 wide and 32 tall. So I want to make my blue facing right 32 pixels wide and 32 pixels tall, so it fits inside 4 of these little squares. So I click on the character and I can now edit him. Now changing something is called transforming it, and I want to transform by stretching. Now stretching always sounds like something you make bigger rather than smaller. Now notice the numbers are the same, so 345394, 345394. So it's both pieces of software agree on the size, and I want to change that to 32. Now when I change one, it changes the other, so I need to unclick keep aspect ratio, and then I can click both of them to 32. I'd also like it to have an excellent quality. Okay, not just normal, I want excellent quality. So I've now said I'd like it to be 32 pixels by 32 pixels and excellent quality, and click OK, and he promptly jumps down in size. Click on the tick and click OK, and now in the game you see his size has changed. He's now much smaller and he fits inside those 4 squares. So I've put my sprite in, created an object, put the object in the room. The object is too big, and to make the object smaller I go back to the sprite and change the size of the sprite, and doing it in chunks of 16 means it's going to fit into the square. So I could, for instance, have made that, instead of 32, I could have made it 48 by 48, and he would have filled in 9 of the squares, or I could have gone bigger, or I could have made him smaller, made him just fit in one of the squares. So now I've got, in the game, I've got my blue facing right object, and what I want to do with him next is make him move around.